It's probably all open source.
Everything is open source.
Was some kind of algorithm I needed, and I was like, oh, okay.
We might not even have come to the idea of making those things.
We would have probably taken a long time to develop something.
I don't think it would have been an option.
Hello, my name is Johannes and I'm an entrepreneur here in Sweden. This week I asked a bunch of developers at Swedish startups what they think about open source.
Yes, I'm Per-Olov. I'm normally a developer at Spotify. We are working with APIs and stuff. But right now I'm working here at the startup factory, Sub46.
Yeah.
With a different venture called Lingio, which is a language learning app.
My name's Marc Sokes, and I'm the CTO for a startup called Pricepi. I'm working with Lindgren on a project that is Google for e-commerce, basically. So we find the absolute lowest price on anything imaginable online. It's cross-sectors, meaning it's online search as well as marketplace, e-commerce, our potential to be one. So it's definitely an exciting product. We're able to find lower prices than most price comparison sites, or all price comparison sites, because we're an actual online search engine, so we have very broad coverage.
My name is Kristoffer, and I'm the CTO of Mentimeter. Mentimeter is a cloud-based polling tool in real time as well. So you get instant interactions with your audience using their mobile phones to input data and answer questions.
My name is Tobias Lindgren, and I'm the CTO of Freespee. We are a software development company, and we develop a marketing software for marketeers. Where normally the phone call would end up as being like a black hole for marketeers, we now provide them with a service where they can actually take the phone calls into account when they make their marketing decisions. Not just look at the online visitors and the online checkouts and stuff like that, but also an insurance company is a good example. They probably make 50, 60, 70% of their sales over phone. And if they drive an online visitor to their site and the online visitor picks up their phone and places a call into the call center of this company, then they lose track of that person. They have no relation to what market spent they used for getting that person into the site and converting into a sale.
Dahlström.
What do you do here at Hansoft?
I'm one of the co-founders and chief design officers. Hansoft is a software company that does project collaboration software. We have two product lines, one for this called Hansoft Enterprise, which is for large-scale agile projects, which is the majority of the world's game industry use that, and as well as industrial companies like Ericsson. We're also doing a new product line called codenamed Hansoft X, which is almost developed as a startup within a more mature company, which is a very lightweight, fast, mobile and cloud-based way of collaborating and planning projects. We're 35.
Okay.
And we have offices here in Sweden and in San Francisco.
So we're about 20 people in Uppsala in Sweden, and we have a sales office in London. They are about 10 people. And then we have salespersons throughout Europe, basically.
I'm iOS and backend developer.
What kind of open source software are you using at Instabridge?
Mostly for backend we use Ruby on Rails, and then MongoDB and Redis. Redis as a sort of persistent cache.
Well, it's probably all open source. It's all open source except for what we've written in-house, which probably should be open source, but it's not yet.
Everything is open source. It's everything but the actual cloud provider, which is Azure, but we're running an open source software up on Azure. So we're using Node, we're using Mongo, we're using Cordova.
We're using a lot of from the Ruby community and the Node.js community, and also the database is Postgres. So we're very grateful for that one. The whole ecosystem is really important for us right now at this moment because we use it quite extensively. We have like 3 Ruby components, and each have at least 20 or 30 gems somehow. Some have 71 when you like count all the transcendent. When you count everything, really.
We're using a lot. Probably 99 to almost 100% of all the services we provide are provided through open source projects. The normal like LAMP stack with Linux and MySQL is used a lot in our systems. We also have some maybe not commonly used, but like Camilo, which is an open source zip proxy server for voice calls. We use a more modern or newer open source project like the hip hop virtual machine from Facebook. We're using Fabricator, which is also a really good open source tool, also created by Facebook from start. So there's a lot.
So we use basically a framework called Meteor, which is a quite new framework which is developed out of San Francisco, which is also an open source product under the MIT license. And Meteor is based on Node, and Node is also open source, as well as MongoDB, which is our database, which is also open source. So that is the main open source stack. But also within the Meteor framework, there's a lot of packages that you can install that gives us additional functionality. So there's a lot of sub-projects to the Meteor framework, which we have benefited a lot from.
We use MariaDB, which is open source entirely. Once again, it's fantastic. I've always kind of had a special place in my heart for MySQL, despite what anybody might tell you otherwise. It's a fantastic database, very high performance, and entirely open source. And then MariaDB just really takes it to the next level. It's just fantastic. And despite the massive amounts of data we're dealing with, we still chose to go with an SQL database, because if you don't do joins, if you don't do queries, it is no slower than if you're using NoSQL or any other sort of value key store. So we use SQL with a custom indexer, and it's lightning fast, and it's been scalable and fantastic.
Cordova is a framework for wrapping web apps inside of mobile apps, basically. So you build your app in Cordova, which is JavaScript and HTML5, and then you deploy it to multiple platforms. Basically, it's just a lot faster. That's the main benefit.
Which is really good for startups.
Yes, especially if you're one developer.
What would you have done without Cordova?
I don't know. I guess we would have to build everything ourselves, which is a pain, and it would have taken a lot more time, and time that we don't have, basically.
The things we're doing today we might not even have come to the idea of making those things happen if we didn't have the open source projects to like do test and like lab towards. If the idea had been there anyway, we probably needed to develop our own systems, which probably would have taken a lot of time and would have been very costly in the end.
What would we have done? Well, we wouldn't be as far along as we are now. Let's put it that way. We would have to probably write something on our own, or pay tons of money for Oracle or something of that sort, which would be a huge impediment to innovation, to being a startup in general. So,
if we didn't find anything, we would have probably taken a long time to develop something.
Years. If you put it in time, I would say years. 2 to 3 years probably at least, and that would be to come up probably with a product that is not as strong as it is now because of the open source.
Then we need to hire some more people, I guess, to write all the code we actually just pull off from the internet. I guess we would need to hire at least like 10, maybe. I'm not really sure. It's kind of hard to just think about all the energy and all the effort put into all the different gems that we need. Some, of course, are written like in maybe 20 minutes or maybe for like a day. But there are some which is maybe the core parts, the HTTP, the database connections and stuff like that, which takes a long time to write and make it as good as it is today, really. So it's very hard. It's very kind of irreplaceable, really.
If you take into account like testing and everything, that's probably a year or half a year at least, just development time.
And
then you have to maintain and like fix bugs that you probably introduced and stuff like that.
Multiple years, hundreds of thousands of American dollars, you could say. And
money is hard to say, but I mean, at least a development time of 1 to 2 years. So that would be. I don't think it would have been an option, really.
So basically, you wouldn't have done the project without Meteor.
No.
you know, open source is good for the world, truthfully.
Has there ever been a situation where you thought, here's a tricky problem, there should be an open source for this, and you've Googled and you've actually found a good software for it?
Many times. That happens almost daily nowadays.
All the time, really. It's I guess there's always a rack middleware for that, or there's a Express middleware, or there's a jQuery plugin that's something you need. It's all the time, really. Or some kind of algorithm I needed, and I was like, oh, okay, I can write this myself, but okay, why not just bring it in? And that was worked flawlessly.
Yeah, especially within the packages in the Meteor community, from everything from dealing with accounts to swiping on a mobile, and a lot of these specific problems where we thought that we had to fix it ourselves, but in the end found a small package, a small snippet of code that can solve it for us. So that's been very good.
I think that happens all the time. And the answer is usually yes, there is probably an open source solution for it. We did some data migration the other day, where we used JQ, which is a JavaScript command line processor. So you can transform data from one set to another, and it was super easy and super fast, and then we just dumped everything into Azure.
The most recent one is probably involves machine learning, because we're using machine learning for product categorization in Pricepi right now, which is a huge engineering challenge, incredibly intimidating. And it's hard enough to become familiar with the concepts without having to actually implement them or build an actual library upon which you can execute the types of programs and the types of categorization that you need. So we were lucky enough to find a library written by John Langford from Carnegie Mellon for machine learning written in C++. And it's a fast learner called Valpal Wabbit, which is supposed to be Elmer Fudd's way of saying killer rabbit because it's killer fast. So it's entirely open source and just super cool. Awesome.
This Facebook, the hip hop virtual machine, or HHVM, is the most recent one we're using. I mean, it's it's a big thing, but still, it's something where we felt that there must be, since we're using PHP for many applications that we have, we wanted to have better scalability and better performance. So a natural step was to look into that, and that has been a real success for us, that particular software.
Do you have a personal favorite open source software you'd like to share?
That is Meteor. It's very modular. You can add and remove packages as you want, select things for client side or server side. Also, they have solved difficult problems in computer science, if you say like this, with keeping clients in sync and storing data and things like that, which is difficult to solve on your own. And also, it's a very well made and open software, a good company behind it that handles the community well and so forth. So they also have a lot of funding, which is good, so we can feel safe in using it in the future.
Right now, I think I'm very impressed by Mike Bostock's D3, which we use quite extensively to create our graphs and everything. And because it's put so much, he's like a kind of a freak, really, when it comes to writing a lot of code and just make stuff work, and it's very well thought through. So that's a very good library that we use. And also, of course, the databases, which is very you can't really get around them without them. And if you would if they wouldn't exist, you need to pay a lot of money to Oracle or to someone else to have these the same thing really.
If you were given free Oracle licenses for now and forever, would you switch?
Probably not really.
Would you switch from MySQL?
No, never.
My personal favorite open source software, that's a tough one, but I would have to say FreeBSD. I think I kind of like underdog stories, I guess, and I like kind of overlooked stars, and it's definitely one of them. I mean, the base is just incredibly clean. It's fantastic. I love the heritage of it. I love how it goes all the way back to AT&T and the original Unix, and even kind of the open source drama that occurred that long ago when they had a court case with AT&T over the source code and things like that. So, and it's just so stable and so reliable that it's super cool. For network intensive applications, I find it's the absolute best. I love Linux very much, but some of the glibc networking modules are a bit buggy, truthfully. So, and the generic libc ones from FreeBSD are definitely more stable.
Recently I've been using Atom by GitHub. It's a source code editor it supports lots of languages, and I'm using it for Ruby on Rails development.
Okay, I would mention two.
Okay.
One is for Windows only, which is a bit sad since I'm a Mac user for now. It's called Far Manager, which is a Norton Commander clone, and it's super great. If you haven't tried it, you should try it. I really miss that from when switching. The other app, I guess, or the system is called Pure Data, which is a graphical programming interface for like audiovisual apps, like interactive. You place boxes on a canvas and you drag connections between them, and then every box has its function. Like please combine these two strings into one, or make a sound, or emit some MIDI signals, or read some OSC from this place or something.
Try more open source software. Not be afraid. There are very big communities around most of these projects, and most of them are very well maintained. And since there's a big community of people working with an open source project, what I feel at least is that it's very common that bugs and problems they come or they surface much quicker than if you have like a software that you bought, because there's the user space is so much bigger. And the persons using these type of softwares, they're using it in a way that no one would ever imagine, not even the person who built it, which means that either they come up with very new fun ideas, or they tend to break the software, which is good for everyone else, because the next iteration of the software is probably even better for all of the users.
Open source is good for the world.